Um, Good morning. This is the Tuesday morning monologue. So, had a very bad start because the bus driver put on the radio, and then the whole drama of the families of the hostages, of the people kidnapped. And let me tell you this is what I think. I think there should be some sort of UN pressure on Hamas. It's not possible for them to sit in Qatar, get interviewed, meet the Red Cross as if they're some sort of political entity and not a band of criminals, murderers, terrorists. Negotiating with terrorists never ever has a good outcome. We know it from Munich. We know it from every single incident we ever had. And the whole mess that's going on with the families screaming, getting interviewed in the media and flooding us with their screaming. I mean, I think this is, in my humble opinion, that people who have sons and daughters that are, well, mostly sons, that are killed in Gaza, they maybe should be screaming. Maybe. That's what we had in the past. People not wanting to sacrifice their children. But today we know it's really a war of survival. If it wasn't for the soldiers being in Gaza, we'd be under rocket attack. And we're still under the threat of rocket attack every day. So why do the family of the hostages flood the media and scream at the government and think they have a right to decide? Yes, they had the worst thing ever. Maybe it's not the worst thing, it's the second worst thing. The worst thing is to have your son, grandson, nephew, whoever he is, your family relative, your friend, get killed. And fighting terrorists. That's the worst thing, in my opinion. Death is like, that's it. There's no return. But to have your family get kidnapped is pretty up there with bad things that can happen to a human being in this world, this horrible, complex world. But screaming at the government, I mean, yes, there's a loss of trust in the government. I agree. But that's completely separate, completely different matter, because they're mixing politics. If you don't trust the government, as many of us do, then do it separately. Join the people that don't trust the government. But don't you use the hostage situation to think that you have the right to decide, to make political decisions. I mean, these people were elected. Let them deal with it. It's a very complex issue. For one soldier, we gave thousands of terrorists that we're now trying to murder. You know, if we hadn't given up those thousands of terrorists, was it 1,000 or was it more? I don't know. But it was way too many. And I thought about it then, that it's madness to release people that were murderers. And there they were. They murdered again. Some of these people were released, and the ones that weren't active, they were leading and training and helping murder Israeli citizens and soldiers on October 7th. So you can't just release terrorists in exchange for hostages. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You have to think that there's always hope if your family has been kidnapped. There's always hope. However, maybe the address is the US, the UN, the EU, I don't know. But the Israeli government is in the worst moral dilemma ever. And to make it sound so simple, when it's not. It's not simple at all. You can't say, we want the hostages now. It doesn't work like that. They're being held by mad criminals, terrorists that have no logic. People try to see logic when a rocket is going to land here. There's no logic. They just send you a rocket, and I'm not sure they even know what they're doing. They just like have a lot of power thanks to all the money they got. And yes, I do blame the government, but that's a separate issue. It's a complete separate issue than releasing the hostages. The way, if you want a change, a political change, it's completely separate than releasing of the hostages. If you want to release the hostages, it's definitely not going to be done in the media, because that's what they want. They want everybody to be panicking and fighting each other, as we've seen yesterday in the Knesset. Let's just scream at each other. That's what they like. They like chaos. They thrive on chaos and disputes. And the more they see Israelis fight each other, the more they enjoy this process. That's what they want. Because they say divide and conquer, divide and conquer. Together we stand, divided we fall. And that's just the way, it's an American slogan from the Revolution in 1776. And that's how it is. If you're not united, you fall. It's with everything. You know, even teaching. If I have to battle the pupils, if they don't want to learn, they're not going to learn. We're not going to make progress, because that's what I've had. Unless they cooperate and we stand together in this process of learning, no way. Can't do it. Divided, we fall. That's what I'm experiencing right now, because I have a process of, some people come to school, God knows why. God knows why they come to school. They don't want to learn, or they're unable. They might have a difficulty that's not diagnosed, but they disturb other pupils and just walk around, and the only word I can use is terrorize. Terrorize. They just walk around, and I can scream till the cows go home. What I can do is just write them a disturbance. They're going to get 0 in the report card, and I really don't care, because it's not my responsibility. At first, I felt really bad. Why don't they want to learn? It's not my fault. There are books. They're maybe not the most fascinating, but they're definitely better than the books my father and my mother had when they were pupils in school. They try to make these books more interesting. They have more visual aids. They don't have that much information. You don't need to learn that much, but you need to learn. You need to be open for a new experience of learning. And if you don't want to learn, if you have a bad attitude, or if you have some sort of difficulty that hasn't been diagnosed, and you choose, yes, here you choose to disturb others. Because, you know, you can also choose just to sit quietly. I have pupils who just sit quietly. Clearly they have difficulties, clearly, but they don't disturb other pupils and prevent them from learning. And this is something that I don't get. Why some people decide to just disturb everybody's public sphere and just to not care about the consequences. You can't just say, I only care about my family. The whole point of sending somebody to the army, for instance, is we care about other people. And when your family is taken hostage, they're not soldiers, but in a way they are. They are being used by a terror organization, and you have to realize that you can't just do it on your own and disregard the whole society in which we live. And sadly, you have to think about it, that they could have been murdered that day. And the fact that they were taken hostage at least gives you some hope they might be returned one day. But you can't just expect everything to work like this. And that's the problem we have in Israel. People expect instant results. And that's the same thing I have with pupils. We have to learn to wait, to invest in learning. Because, you know, language is like that too. It's built slowly. You have to have building blocks, and some people have it. Some people have a better grasp of language. They watch movies, they get it, they learn, they understand, they pick it up very quickly. Others struggle a lot. They even struggle with Hebrew, their mother tongue. So learning another language is really difficult. And they might have some sort of problem with learning languages or whatever. But you have to learn that you're not alone. You're in a class and there are other pupils. Problem is there has to be stricter rules. And I feel in that way, it's sad we don't have stricter rules like it used to be, that a person who disturbs, a pupil who disturbs is sent out, or there's a teacher that sits with them or something. You don't just allow them to sit in the classroom and disturb everybody. Writing a disturbance doesn't help that the lesson is going to be lost. So luckily, fortunately, the older the pupils, the more they're more mature, and they don't disturb as much. But still, it's very sad to see pupils who they don't open their notebooks, they just sit there and think I'm some sort of entertainment piece. And maybe I am an interesting person and definitely have a lot of life experience, a lot to say and share. And I do like music and entertainment, but sorry, I'm not there to entertain. I'm there to teach them English so they can progress in their studies and at least finish school with some basic knowledge of English language, which is every civilized person living today has to have some grasp of the English language. It's the international language. And if you disturb me and don't allow me to teach, can't do much. But it's really sad because it's the way terror works. They take over and they don't care about other people. So I think terror takes shape in many forms, and what the hostage families are doing is a type of terror too, because they take over and they think they have more rights than others. And if they want to release prisoners from terrorists, if they want to release terrorists, they're going to put pressure, and they think they can just make decisions, and they don't care about the consequences. And that's the problem, not caring about the consequences. And when you are leading this country, you have to really think a lot. And that's why we didn't go into Gaza before, because there's a prize. And every day we lose soldiers, and they're the best of the best of the best. You see them, they're either families or they're just young men starting their life, and they're all amazingly handsome and talented and full of life. And it's just so sad. And that's why we didn't go into Gaza before. Everybody's like, oh, we should have done this before. Well, because we knew there was a price to pay. Terrorists they don't care. They really don't care about the consequences, and we do. And that's what makes it so difficult. And you can't just say now. No, you can't do it now. We have to wait and think. Anyway, have a good day. Thank you for listening to my monologue, Tuesday monologue.